morning. Welcome to APTN National News. I'm Melissa Bridgen. In the House of Commons today, rookie Nunavut MP Mumilaaq Qaqqaq challenged the Prime Minister on food security in the North. The Inuk NDP member took aim at the Nutrition North program, which critics say has not protected consumers from high food prices.
Mr. Speaker, we know that 7 out of 10 children in Nunavut go to school hungry. How shameful is that in a country like Canada? Since Nutrition North has started, food security has actually gotten worse in Nunavut. People in need struggle to get quality food and necessities. Nunavut's the only fly-in, fly-out territory, so in my riding, it's even worse. When will this government step up to make the program transparent and accountable to those in the North and start feeding our children?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we recognize the extraordinary difficulties faced around food security in the North, particularly in Nunavut. I have myself visited many times and heard directly from community members who are challenged and struggling with the issue. We have made significant improvements to Nutrition North, but we know there is much more to do. We will continue to work with all partners and everyone in this House to ensure that we are improving affordability for good quality nutrition and food in the North.
It's estimated thousands of Inuit travel to Winnipeg every year. While the number of those who choose to make the city home is much smaller, it's steadily growing every year. And as Brittany Hobson shows us, with this comes the need for Inuit-specific resources as well.
It's been 7 months since Janet Gjoa left her home community of Uluhaktak. The transition hasn't been easy. The community of nearly 400 in the Inuvik region of the Northwest Territories is a far cry from the city of Winnipeg.
It's been great, but it's been hard. Culture shock, I guess. Even though it is Canada and everything, it is very different from her little town. We weren't using up all the traffic. The heat in the summertime and all the bugs that came with it.
Gjoa left home for better health care and education for her family. Her decision came with many what-ifs.
My biggest hesitation was leaving my family. We're pretty close-knit. I have my grandchildren, my parents, my siblings, all my nieces and nephews. I was worried about not being able to find work. Worried about my kids adapting to a whole new life here.
These are just some of the concerns Inuit face when they decide to move south. In Winnipeg, there are 2 groups working to make the transition easier.
I think a lot of people are not sure where to go for help. There's really no handbook or anything about moving down to the south from north. It's all experiences or connections you have with people down here.
Zian Manakaluk works with the Manitoba Inuit Association. Originally from Rankin Inlet, she moved to Winnipeg 16 years ago.
When I first came down, there was Inuit down here, but there was no specific programming or schools or anything, drop-in centers or anything like that. So unfortunately, I did lose a lot of my Inuit heritage in the first couple of years of being here.
This is slowly changing. It's estimated 600 Inuit live in Manitoba, with the majority in Winnipeg. This is relatively low, but grassroots organizations expect these numbers to increase.
They think that maybe my life will be better here. I could find more opportunities. It's a bigger city.
But with that comes barriers, like access to housing, social assistance, or mental health care. A group of Inuit saw this and decided to create Tuna Sugit, a resource center for Inuit living in Winnipeg. Nikki Kumaksiu Tisiak helped create the group.
One thing that a lot of people don't understand is that our culture is very different, our language is very different, our way of life is very different. So it makes it really hard for an Inuk to come here and go to, a program or a resource center that is not specific to who they are. And so now they're being introduced to a different way of life, like smudging, for example.
The center opened last May. They see anywhere from 100 to 200 Inuit a month.
We find that every week that we're open, a new Inuk comes in through the doors that had been living here for several months, several years, 10 years. So we're finding that a lot of Inuit are now they're knowing about Tungasugit and that the services that we offer.
Those include access to cultural activities and country food. The center is only open 2 days a week due to funding. As more Inuit move to Winnipeg, both organizations say more investments are needed. Otherwise, they may fall through the cracks. Brittany Hubson, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
It's one of the harshest climates in the world, where the price of groceries can be up to 10 times the average cost. Scientific research is underway to grow vegetables in the Arctic Circle in the most northern off-the-grid plant production facility in Canada. The private Arctic Research Foundation and federal scientists are working with the people. Take a look.
In an Arctic freeze of 39 below, solar panels are cleared for the only 4 hours of January sun. 2 turbines, the most northern in Canada, capture the polar winds.
It's good fun and it's all working.
Green energy is being used to power and heat the recycled sea containers on this site, a greenhouse on the tundra. In Nunavut, where the price of groceries can be up to 10 times the average cost, this project, developed by the private nonprofit Arctic Research Foundation, is not only bringing in fresh food, but jobs. Working with partners like Agriculture Canada, these 5 locals have become Gjoa Haven's first farmers.
Had no clue about gardening at all, absolutely nothing.
No idea. I didn't know anything about gardening, but we know now.
The hamlet of Gjoa Haven is home to just over 1,000 people. Located along the Northwest Passage, it's part of Canada's history.
Gjoa Haven is strongly connected to the Franklin expeditions.
For the Arctic Research Foundation's CEO, the ill-fated voyage of Franklin and his men serves as a reminder modern ideas can only grow with the support, knowledge, and history of the Inuit people.
The people of the North know their backyard better than anyone else, so it'd be wise to listen and ask for direction.
That respect has formed a firm friendship. Sami Kogvik is an Inuk hunter and guide who trusted Shimnowski enough to share a remarkable story, how he and a friend had once found a ship mast pushing out from the ice.
We took the picture.
The camera was lost, and after his friend died in a tragic accident, he didn't speak of it again, until the day he led the Arctic Research Foundation's team in locating the last of Franklin's missing ships, HMS Terror.
I trust him a lot, and he trusts me a lot too.
Now this team is building on new success. The first harvest of lettuce was delivered to elders in November. Cherry tomatoes are just a few weeks from ripening, and this group sees no end to the possibilities.
I just love carrots.
There are plans to expand this project, adding more grow pods, bringing in new plants and more traditional ones.
For elders, there's interest in growing the tundra's berries and flowers, plants that can only be gathered in a short summer window.
Now I know that anything is possible.
A project that is planting the seeds for the future, and there's much anticipation in seeing it grow.
What a great story from our friend Jill Makashon over at CTV. We need to take a quick break, but here's a look at a story we're working on for you later in the week, and also a look at tomorrow's weather for the east and central part of the country.
I'm Willow Fiddler in Thunder Bay, Ontario. It's been just over a year since the Thunder Bay Police Service was hit with a damning report.
Overall, I found that systemic racism exists in Thunder Bay Police Service at an institutional level.
I sat down with Chief of Police Sylvie Hoth recently to talk about what's happened since the OIPRD report and how they're working towards addressing systemic racism.
I think a lot of people get frustrated with the term. I think people take it personally that they are being attacked on a one-on-one basis.
That story coming soon on APTN National News.
Starting off in Newfoundland, we've got -1 in snow in St. John's, -6 in sunshine for Fredericton. -13 in snow for Nain and Kuujjuaq, -19 with a mix of sun and clouds. Sept-Îles, -12, mostly sunny skies. Montreal, -5 and sunny. Toronto, -1 with sunshine. Ottawa, -6 and sunny. Sault Ste. Marie, -5, mix of sun and clouds. -8 for Sioux Lookout and snow. -5 and sunshine for Thunder Bay.
-6 is for Gods Lake, Thompson, Norway House, and snow. -5 for Churchill. -7 in snow for Winnipeg. -5 in snow for Brandon. -5 in cloud for Saskatoon and North Battleford. -3 in snow for Yorkton. -4 mostly sunny in Stony Rapids and Uranium City. And La Ronge, -5. It's snowing, and that's in Meadow Lake.
Welcome back. Newly elected Grand Chief of Treaty 6, Billy Morin of the Enoch Cree Nation, recently sat down with APTN's Chris Stewart. He talked about his new role as Grand Chief, his thoughts on taking over from celebrated Chief Wilton Littlechild, and his future aspirations.
Chief Morin, thank you for doing this.
Thank you for having me.
Congratulations on becoming the new Grand Chief of Treaty 6. Your predecessor was Chief Wilton Littlechild, so those are pretty big shoes to fill.
Just a little bit. That's my first text in the morning was from Willie from Ecuador, telling me about all the good work that he's doing still internationally. So big shoes to fill, but he blazed a trail for me to follow. Really good one.
What would you like to accomplish during your mandate?
I would like to accomplish, I only have 1 year to accomplish something. That's the mandate the Chiefs gave me, it's just 1 year. I would like to accomplish something tangible, something real. You know, the Grand Chief role is the head of 17, 18 First Nations in Treaty 6 in Alberta, and you know, there's still a lot of outstanding issues. You know, treaty's a thing that doesn't have a beginning and an end, and that's a little daunting of a task to fully implement that. But that's something that we'll have to fight for just beyond my time as Grand Chief, and we've been fighting for a long time.
As a Chief of Enoch, what do you think has been your greatest accomplishment?
My greatest accomplishment in Enoch, I feel, is the things you can see, physical change. We have a lot of new capital investment, a new water line, a new school. We have new housing. Beyond that, what we've been really successful at is really making Nehiyaw culture, Nehiyaw Pamatswin, Nehiyaw ways of thinking back into the decision making we do as a governance team here at the nation. So those things, you know, maybe we didn't say we got everything we wanted over the last 4 years as my time as chief, but we've definitely pushed the envelope and kind of making old new again, bringing back those traditional governance values, those traditional family values, those traditional culture and language in making decisions. And it's translated it into actual capital and investment and infrastructure. So it's a good balance there to be had.
You're on your 3rd term now as Chief of Enoch. Now you're the Grand Chief of Treaty 6. Do you have any further aspirations, maybe National Chief?
Yeah, I'm 33, so I still got a lot of time ahead of me. I never anticipated being Grand Chief. It was recognition, I guess, of my peers, my brothers and sisters at the Chiefs table of just, you know, we want to try something new, and that's the guy. I never actually wanted to or aspired to follow in Willie's footsteps, but, you know, there was an opportunity there, and I feel we've accomplished a lot in Enoch, and I walked out of AFN in December saying, literally, you know, maybe it's time we just give back to other First Nations. And this opportunity 5 days later was in front of me, and so I took it. And, you know, I don't know what the future holds for me, but I'll just keep plugging along day to day, and we'll see what doors that opens so I can keep helping other First Nations.
So you're not saying no?
I'm not saying no, actually. No, I'm not. But I'm not saying yes either tomorrow.
What do you think the job Chief Bellegarde has done?
I think Chief Bellegarde is doing an amazing job. He has pushed the dial more than any other national chief, in my opinion, in the last little while. He's accused too much a little bit of cozying up to the Trudeau government, but you know, this is again not something that it's my way or the highway. He's done a great job of you know, treaty is really that relationship where everybody works together, and I'm quite impressed with what he's accomplished. The Child Welfare Bill C-92, implementing that, unprecedented amount of capital infrastructure and education. He's pushing UNDRIP to be legislated. He's doing a fantastic job in my mind, so I don't need his job today.
You are in support of the pipelines. Can you tell me on that?
Yeah, so I'm in support of one pipeline on public record, which is the TMX pipeline, but that said, we take those projects project by project, day by day. You know, that one, you know, the right-of-way was already there. They did do a level of unprecedented consultation, in my mind anyways. Our elders approved it here at the nation. Not that said, every nation member approves that. It's very controversial. So, you know, I take resource development, particularly pipelines, project by project. And on the record, that's the only one that, in my mind, has approval from the nation perspective. If they want to push another one, we're not just going to sign a BCR. We're not just going to flip and put our heads down and go along for the ride. It's going to be, again, raising that bar, that standard of resource revenue sharing, getting our say at the table, and doing a good job to protect Mother Earth.
Grand Chief Morin, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
On today's episode of In Focus, my colleague Dennis Ward guest hosted the topic, the tumultuous state of the Métis Nation, and also Canada's shocking incarceration rate of Indigenous people. Here's some highlights.
Our registry system is second to none. I will put that up against anybody. And then if you look at, MNO talks about their registry system, and it might be great, but the problem with their registry system is that it doesn't come back to the Métis Nation or the homeland. They have created new communities, and the registry system, yes, absolutely can connect to those communities, but those communities aren't a part of us. They never were, and they never will be, unless
Who's us?
The Métis Nation is us, and I'm pretty sure that the Métis Nation is. I will, maybe we'll take a step back here. I will say unequivocally that having Indigenous ancestry does not make you Métis. Having Métis ancestry makes you Métis.
That is only one portion of what is going on. From my understanding is the MNO has had an independent third party come in and review their whole registry, and they have dealt with the people who did not meet the criteria. And when we're speaking about the registry criteria, our national president admitted he does not even fit the criteria. So how is he the national representative?
What do you think is behind these increasing numbers? As you heard there, 94% or something of the women in jails in Saskatchewan are Indigenous women.
It's institutionalized racism. That's what it is. Plain, and it's hard to swallow for people because it's okay. So what's the solution? Well, the solution is that you have to change the senior management and senior people within that institution. And the only way you can do that is if you transfer to control of First Nations. Because we have to come in and change the culture there. The culture is that police are arresting more Indigenous people. Police are likely charging more Indigenous people. If you're Indigenous, you're more likely to be charged, you're more likely to be arrested, you're more likely to go to jail, and you're more likely to do more time. And that's just from a pure statistical analysis that is the case. And it's not changing. And what's happening is those people who continue to follow that kind of a culture are promoted or looked on highly by their superiors. That's how the culture is continuing to replicate itself generation after generation.
You can watch the whole episode on the APTN National News Facebook page. We're looking ahead at the upcoming Junos after the break and what it means to some Indigenous musicians. First, here's the rest of tomorrow's weather forecast for the north and the west. In northern Alberta, we've got zeros for Fort Chip and Fort McMurray and snow, same with Peace River. +2 in cloud, sunshine for Edmonton and 2 degrees 5 in sunshine for Calgary. Tofino and Vancouver are cloudy and rainy and 9 degrees 5 in Quesnel. Dease Lake, mostly sunny and 2 degrees. Prince Rupert, 6 and rain. -22 in snow for Beaver Creek. Old Crow, -28 in snow. Wrigley, -25, mostly sunny, -27 in snow for Norman Wells. Fort McPherson, -30 in snow. Paulatuck, -21 in snow. Baker Lake, -4 and snow. Whale Cove, -8 in snow. Igloolik, mostly sunny and -27. Gjoa Haven, -23 in snow. Clyde River, -22 in snow. Welcome back. More than 1,000 people are in northern British Columbia for the 17th annual BC Natural Resources Conference. Many are worried about the decline of the forestry industry, but a lot are focused on liquid natural gas in the province. Today, Premier John Horgan was at the conference in Prince George with a large contingent of government officials. And one big question, how will he handle the dispute with the Wet'suwet'en and Hereditary Chiefs over the Coastal GasLink pipeline? APTN's Lee Wilson is in Prince George and has this.
Clayton today, Chief Clayton Poutley welcomes industry leaders, and government to the territory. Today is the 17th annual BC Resource Forum in Prince George, northern British Columbia. Fort Nelson First Nation Chief Charlene Gale, was in attendance. She felt it was important that leaders from different sides can be in a room together and have discussions.
So today is the BC Premier's Resource Conference. It's a very great opportunity to bring First Nations, industry, and investors into a group and a room where we can talk about our shared interests and how we can move together on a path of prosperity.
Yesterday, her nation was awarded a contract for renewable energy, and she's excited for the change for her territory.
A lot of people have lost their homes and had to pack up and leave, and that's the last thing that we want to see happen in Fort Nelson. We really want to bring families together. We want people to have good lives and have good jobs and good opportunities to raise their kids in.
Premier John Horgan was a keynote speaker at the conference. The Resource Conference had industry government that support resource extraction, but currently one big topic the Premier addressed was the opposition of the LNG pipeline by Wet'suwet'en hereditary chiefs. His office announced the appointment of Nathan Cullen as a liaison. He sees a way forward through dialogue.
We are confident that there is a way forward. I spent a day at a smokehouse feast at the request of the Wet'suwet'en Indigenous leadership or hereditary leadership last year. I spent a half-day session at the office of the Wet'suwet'en, and it's clear to me that there is a way forward.
As the conference was taking place inside, a rally in support of resource development took place outside. Wet'suwet'en elected chiefs and some hereditary chiefs like Helen Michelle from Skintyee Nation came to lend her voice.
Really sad how everybody's getting divided over this whole thing when it should not happen. You know, everything should be discussed properly sitting at the table, coming to a solution, not stopping people from working. Jobs are very important.
Lee Wilson, APTN National News, Prince George, British Columbia.
Saskatoon will be hosting the 49th annual Juno Awards in March, and APTN, of course, will be there. Here's Priscilla Wolf with a lineup of the talented Indigenous artists that we will be seeing.
The 2020 Junos will be here in Saskatoon on March 15th, and APTN will be covering the awards here at the SaskTel Centre. And now for a full list of the Indigenous nominees up for awards this year.
Titaga Reet from Nunavut, Stories from a Downtown Apartment, Kaylee Cardinal from Alberta, Yellowstone, Digga Wolf from the Northwest Territories, Sikinarut Northern Haze from Iqaluit, and Nipi Niyewak from Alberta. The award show will have the best of Canadian music artists here in Saskatoon for the show. Alessia Cara will be the host, and many of the nominees will be bringing their international star power to the city that shines. Priscilla Wolf, APTN National News, Saskatoon.
That's your news for the night. If you missed anything, check out our website, aptnnews.ca. That's where you'll find an updated story of one couple's nightmare with child welfare authorities in Manitoba. And if you missed that heated in focus on the turmoil within the Métis Nation, it airs again right here tomorrow at 11 a.m., 10 a.m. Central. I'm Melissa Ridgen. Have a great night.